Josh finally gets a girlfriend, but he struggles to make her feel good in bed. At a party, Mike notices that Josh has been talking to a girl all night. He commends him for a job well done, assuming that Josh might finally get a girlfriend this time. However, Josh continues to babble about a topic that obviously doesn't interest the girl. While he's rambling about Super Mario Bros. 2, the girl suddenly collapses to the floor. Much to everyone's concern, a doctor immediately runs to check on her, but he confirms that she's dead. Josh gets alarmed. Then he asks if it's caused by a heart attack. However, the doctor says she died of boredom. Josh argues that she can't possibly die that way, so the doctor explains that it does happen in rare instances. When a person hears something utterly devoid of interest, the brain becomes starved for stimulation and it begins to eat itself. However, Josh claims that the girl was interested in the topic since she was nodding along and agreeing with him. The doctor clarifies that it was only her vocal cord spasms caused by pre-death rigor mortis, which is basically a cry for help. Finally, Josh concedes, and he apologizes for boring the girl to death. Mike reassures him that it wasn't his fault, and Josh expresses how he thought he was interesting. Just then, a nerdy woman approaches him, saying that she thinks the same thing. However, she corrects his info about Super Mario Bros. 2, saying that Mario 1 invented the POW block, not Mario 2. This impresses Josh, so he introduces himself and discovers that the girl's name is Claire. As Mike witnesses how his friend is falling in love with this new girl, he falls to the floor and gets a seizure. Josh is too occupied to see that Mike is being stabbed with an EpiPen to save his life. A few days later, Josh tells Mike that he's going on his 5th date with Claire. When Mike hears about this, he suggests that they do more extreme intimacy because it's standard on a 5th date. However, Josh breaks it to him that they haven't done anything explicit yet. He adds that things are going well for him and Claire, so rushing into those deeds might ruin their special bond. Mike asks if he isn't craving it so badly since he hasn't done it for a while. When Josh replies that it hasn't been that long, they suddenly hear someone coughing. They wonder where it's coming from, but Josh reckons that it's in his wallet. When he opens it, he realizes that it's from an old and used rubber. The rubber suddenly speaks, much to Josh and Mike's surprise. It adds that it can sing, dance, and even dream. However, it'll all be over soon since he's about to die. When Josh turns the packaging, he discovers that today is its expiration date, which the rubber considers as its death. It's only sad that it never got to fulfill its purpose. Moved by the rubber's story, Josh reassures it that it'll be used tonight since he's going to make a move on Claire. This makes the rubber smile and Mike proud. Later on, Josh goes on his date with Claire. After this, he walks her home, but the rubber has grown tired of waiting. Because of this, it pressures Josh to get to the good part, but he hushes it down. Finally, they reach Claire's house, and before she goes inside, she bats her eyelashes at Josh as if she's suggesting something. However, Josh simply kisses her on the forehead and leaves. This disappoints the rubber, so Josh explains that he is only waiting for a signal. Pissed, the rubber suggests getting filled with water and thrown at an overpass so that it can say that it served some kind of purpose. Hearing this, Josh walks over to Claire and torridly kisses her. Things quickly elevate, and they end up in Claire's room, where Josh finally gets to use the rubber. After merely 3 seconds in, Josh finishes, and the rubber thanks him as it ascends to heaven. Josh comments on the experience and tells Claire that it was amazing. However, she's left unimpressed but hides her true reaction from Josh. For the following days, the two get into a copulating streak. After finishing one session, Josh notices how quickly Claire shrugs him off. She claims that she never got to finish, but she reassures him that it's okay because she liked it. Seeing through her bluff, Josh says he can do some work down there, but Claire says it's fine. That night, Josh searches the internet for how to satisfy a woman. The options irk him out, but when he reads about introducing a toy in the bedroom, he gets an idea. The following day, he takes Claire to an adult shop. Josh suggests buying some toys to spice up their bedroom activities, but Claire remains hesitant. After some persuasion, Josh finally gets her to go. Inside, he tries to make the experience fun for Claire. He picks up a feather and comments on it being freaky, but Claire is still uncomfortable. Suddenly, the store clerk appears, asking what they're looking for. Josh says they're not sure, so the clerk asks what kinds of stuff they're into. He's not sure how to answer this either, but he replies that they're highly evolved lovers who are down for anything. Just then, Claire asks the clerk if they have any prosthetic peckers. The clerk gladly guides her to where the items are, revealing all the shapes and sizes that she can choose from. Although his girlfriend is finally getting interested, Josh isn't sure about getting a prosthetic version of his own thing. Suddenly, something catches Claire's attention, and it's a buffed-up human-sized doll capable of doing sensual activities. The clerk calls this the Kyle, and she claims that it can basically do anything. Even back rubs. It's their best seller, and the clerk even has 2 of them at home. This doesn't sound good to Josh though, so he claims that it's a bit too advanced for their taste. However, Claire says the Kyle could be fun. The clerk also reminds him of how he claimed to be a highly evolved lover. With this, Josh is left with no choice but to purchase the Kyle. As they take the doll with them on the bus, Josh can't help but be mortified by the stares he's receiving. When they get home, Josh tries to convince Claire that the feather is exciting. He tries to tickle her with it, but it doesn't seem to turn her on. She suggests trying out the Kyle, but Josh insists on using it for special occasions, like Hanukkah. However, Claire is adamant about using it, so she gets up from her seat and opens the box. The Kyle immediately walks towards her, so Josh warns that they should probably read the manual first. When he opens the manual, he finds that the doll should know what to do as soon as his box is opened. To his surprise, the Kyle does just that, and he is now carrying Claire to the bed. For the next couple of hours, Josh tries to distract himself with video games as he listens to his girlfriend getting smashed in the bedroom. Later on, the Kyle steps out of the bedroom, looking parched. He grabs Josh's energy drink and gulps it down fast, then he greets him shortly and returns to his business with Claire. That night, Josh joins Claire in bed, where she talks about the amazing experience she had with the doll. Despite his discomfort, he tries to look happy for her, and he even greets the Kyle, who's silently reading a magazine near the bed. A few days after, Josh sets up a romantic dinner date for Claire. After a great meal, he brings out the space-themed cookies that he made himself. This impresses Claire, and she compliments him for being a great boyfriend. They start kissing when Claire suddenly excuses herself to grab the Kyle. However, Josh stops her, suggesting that maybe they can have the night for themselves. Claire tries to reason that the Kyle helps her, but Josh tells her to try enjoying things like a normal person for once. This offends Claire, so she walks out of the room and goes home. When he's finally alone, Josh takes a bite of the cookies he made but spits it right back after tasting them. Days later, the two decide to work things out by seeking the help of a therapist. Josh explains to the therapist that they're having problems with their lovemaking. This is why he's hoping that she could recommend some exercises that might excite Claire. Hearing this, the therapist asks for a little private talk with Claire. Josh leaves the room for a while, and when he returns, the therapist encourages Claire to tell him what they just talked about. After much hesitation, Claire admits that she's not Joshua, meaning someone who's sensually attracted to people who are not Josh. Josh can barely process the information, so the therapist clarifies that this is not about him, but rather, it's about Claire's orientation. To make things clearer, she grabs a book that might explain what she's saying. As she hands the book to Josh, she says that people have been unattracted to him for thousands of years. In ancient Greece, being not Joshua was considered normal, and Plato even calls this the cornerstone of a modern democracy. Baffled, Josh asks how many people are like this, to which the therapist replies that the rates could be as low as 10% or as high as 100%. Some artists like Pink and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson are even not Joshua's. This is the last straw for Josh, so he angrily closes the book and tells Claire that they're leaving. Once they get outside the building, Josh asks Claire if she likes him, and she says yes. With this, Josh reasons that this should be enough to make their relationship work. Touched by his willingness to fix the conflict, Claire agrees to give the relationship another try. For the next few days, things go well for the couple. However, when Claire asks Josh to check a recipe on her laptop, he discovers that she's been secretly watching Not Joshua videos. Suddenly, Claire walks into the room with an apologetic face. Josh says he thought she changed, but Claire argues that not being attracted to him is just who she is. Suffocated by this act of betrayal, Josh walks out of the house and goes for a speedy bike ride. This causes him to run into a barricade and he roughly lands on the streets. Just then, an elderly couple helps him up and they share that they're heading to the Not Joshua Pride Parade. Josh is confused as to why they helped him, considering that they're not Joshua's. The couple explains that they bear no hate and they're merely not physically attracted to him. They tell Josh to have a good day, then leave to attend the parade. This talk sparks a realization in Josh's mind, so he rushes back to Claire's house. When she opens the door, she immediately reminds Josh that things between them aren't going to work. He acknowledges this, but he tells her that he wants to show her something. Josh takes Claire to the Not Joshua Pride Parade. There, he apologizes for trying to change her, then he adds that they're just not right for each other. Claire says that they are, just not in a physical way. Josh smiles at this statement, then he bids her goodbye. However, Claire stops him and shares that there's a horror movie festival next week and she's looking for a friend to go with her. Josh says he's down for it, then he attempts to shake her hand. However, they're not sure whether they should shake hands or hug, so they end up giving each other high fives. After this, Claire enjoys the rest of the parade, fully embracing who she is. Meanwhile, Josh goes home but finds the Kyle tucked inside his closet. He realizes that he's been there for a long time, and he's looking hungry and dehydrated. He tells the Kyle to eat or drink something, and he also updates him about his breakup with Claire. Realizing that he no longer serves his purpose, Josh sets the Kyle free. The Kyle thanks him for his kindness and even hugs him. He then asks if Josh wants to be done good before he leaves. However, Josh refuses his offer. Later on, Josh bids the Kyle goodbye. Before he goes, Josh asks what he plans to do with his life, and the Kyle replies that he's thinking about going to Sydney and getting a degree in applied mathematics. With this, the Kyle leaves with only a hat and boots on.